Hello and a huge warm welcome. My name is Lorraine Davies and I am the host of this summit, The Expansion, Unleash Your Infinite Potential and Reclaim the Power Within. I am so excited to introduce my next guest expert, if I can put my teeth in, guest expert today, the gorgeous Constanze Witzel. And I'm going to share a little bit about her background before we get into the beautiful practices that she's going to share with us today. So Constanze is a compassionate empath, and her background is as a certified somatic coach, breathwork facilitator, and past life regression therapist. What I love about the work that she does is that she really works to guide women toward profound transformation from working at the root level. Now, I truly know that from my experience, and I know she's going to share a little bit of her journey with you as well, but without having this really solid foundation, this root work of deep self-love, deep compassion, and understanding of our innate worthiness, it's really hard for us to expand into everything we are capable of being and becoming. So it is really an honor to have you here with us today, gorgeous lady. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for this wonderful, warm welcome, Lorraine. I already, loved your energy when we had our first check-in. It's just beautiful to look at you, to feel your energy, and you really are an embodiment of expansion.
Thank you so much. So I think a really beautiful and really important place for us to start is to understand how it is that you came to do the work that you do, because I know, when we've talked, when I've read your bio, you've talked about it's easy to look at somebody's life and from the surface level you look like you had everything that you could kind of want, but ultimately it's how you feel in here that really mattered. So I'd love it if you'd share a little bit of your background and your story that brought you to this point.
Yeah, sure. I would love to, because people see us, on Instagram or even in the real life world, and then they think, oh yeah, oh, she used to model. Oh, she looks like she's pretty. Oh, she must be super happy. But actually, under all this mask and facade, there was like a really, really sad, scared little girl. And I lost my family quite early. I mean, I'm still in touch with my mother, but my whole family system, really broke apart when I was 16, and it was really traumatic. And I kind of lost home. And then I went modeling to Milan and to Paris, which sounds very glamorous, but I can assure you it's not as glamorous as it seems. And to kind of survive in this very harsh fashion world, I had to kind of cover my empathic nature. And I was just really driven by the fashion world. How do I look like? How do I make enough money to survive? And it was like a pretty harsh environment for a teenage girl. And I'm a Pisces by zodiac sign. And I remember my mom always telling me, yeah, you're so much more sensitive. Why do you always pretend you're so hard? But I had to, like, life, kind of brought me in this situation. And then a little later, like when I was like 18, 19, I mean, I was still in the fashion business, but somehow my soul started to knock a little bit louder, and was like, hey, there's another path and there is light. It's not just all darkness, because you can imagine, the fashion industry, lots of partying, alcohol, toxic relationships, drug abuse. Yeah, it sounds, I mean, for a lot of people, this is the normal life, right? I mean, when I look at substance abuse in Europe, it's quite a big thing, and it's so normalized in our society. That's why, as well, I always love to emphasize that this is actually not normal, that we numb our feelings, but this is what we do because we don't know how to actually work with our feelings in a healthy way. So I started my spiritual path with Ekharte Tolle, Osho, and became a yoga teacher in my 20s, taught for more than 10 years, led retreats around the world. But I thought, now I'm there. I'm happy. But I wasn't really like, I was going down that path of spiritual bypassing. I like, if people would ask me, oh, you have such a beautiful, calm energy. Yeah, right. It's covered in calm, but you better don't look into the basement, right? But I wasn't even aware of what's hiding in the basement. But then my body started speaking louder and louder. I started to get endometriosis. I had lots of migraine attacks, depression, anxiety, panic attacks. Yeah. And then at some point, I was like, okay, I mean, I can just meditate as much and do as much yoga, but I guess I need a different path. And that's how my path to embodiment started, nervous system regulation and somatic coaching. And yeah, and now I'm here. I feel better than ever. And I'm really glad to be alive. And this has not been always like that.
I think what I can really resonate with your story is this idea of that, like, spiritual bypassing. On the surface, everything's amazing. And I kind of remember early on in my personal development journey that, it was almost, it's that almost toxic positivity, like everything's amazing. And actually, that, believing that if I believed that hard enough, or if I said that enough, that actually everything was. And something really interesting that you've shared there about your, kind of everything started kind of knocking, having the physical symptoms in your body was a huge indication that actually there was some deeper work to do there. And I can definitely say that I resonate with that, because I had something similar. It wasn't until I had my endocrine system just went, we're not working anymore, that I was like, oh wow, I've been like pushing it down and not doing the actual work that's required. So I would love to talk to you a little bit more about this kind of process. Somebody is kind of had this spiritual bypassing, or has done this very surface level approach to their growth journey. Where do you even start? Like, where do you start to go, okay, right, I want to do this deeper work? What does that look like?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, usually I work with women that have been on the path already for some time, that say, oh, yeah, I've been doing yoga and my meditations, and I even went to retreats. And they even sometimes doubt that the coaching is going to change much in their lives. They're like, oh my gosh, I've done so much, I've spent so much money. How can this help me?
Yeah.
But then they actually realize pretty fast, oh, wow, it's a complete new approach. First of all, it's not about me wanting to fix someone. It's more about me opening space that all parts of you are welcome. And by all parts, I mean the fun and joyful ones alongside the messy ones, alongside the ones that we are afraid to show, where there's shame around, maybe some stories from our past, or even that we feel so little self-worth. Like a lot of women that come to me into my coachings, they have very little self-worth. And when you look at them from the outside, you're like, oh, they're these amazing women. They're either amazing mothers, have a great family, or they're successful in their careers. And they don't look like it. But actually, deep down inside, there is an abandoned little girl that heard from her parents or from society that she can't express herself like this, that she's too sensitive, that yeah, she should be a little bit like this or a little bit like that, but that her true natural self-expression is not really welcomed. And this is my main aim in my coaching sessions, to open that space that the women can then see themselves, and yeah, bring in again this compassionate part. And I've never, like, someone told me about compassion, I was like, compassion, too soft, like, who needs compassion, And like my true healing only happened when I started to become so compassionate towards myself. And I became much more compassionate as well towards my mother. Even now, even though I'm not in touch with my father, I can look at him with a very compassionate heart. And I see as well his struggles and his trauma. So yeah, it just makes life a lot easier when we are able to be compassionate. So Yeah, this is where we start, by reframing, by looking at the past. And then I offer a lot of somatic tools. I'm a strong believer that talk therapy can be beneficial, but I love to incorporate the body. That's why I became a somatic coach, to really feel into the body. What does the body say, to connect with the innate intelligence of the body wisdom, and then to actually share tools that my clients can use after our sessions together, because I always like to give some little homework. I always say, I will not check your homework, but you will definitely know if you're doing it or if you're not doing it, right?
Absolutely.
So that's usually some tools from the embodiment world, or breath, or just small meditations or arts work. Yeah.
I love this. And I think there's so many kind of bits and pieces I'd love to
Yeah.
about this, but I think what was really I'd love to have a little bit of more discussion with you about is this idea of we know there's conditioning. So anybody who's been on their growth journey for any length of time understands there's thoughts or feelings or ways of being that they're currently doing that are not their true self. They have this awareness piece, which I think is the first, like anything, awareness is that first step. You can't change something if you're not aware of it. But I think what's so important and really I'd like to highlight here is that you talk about creating this space where people can really be who they truly are. And I think for most people, this is about feeling safe enough to do that, because you spent so long living behind the mask or trying to live up to other people's expectations of who you should be or how you should behave, that it takes courage to be open enough. And I think when you were talking earlier, it's very easy for us when we're on the spiritual journey to kind of go, oh well, I know that. Like there's a logical knowing of that. Yeah, I know that thing. I know that I need to be more compassionate. But actually, there's a shift in gears happens when we truly choose to embody that process and to go, okay, a beginner's mind here. The next step is to be open enough to find a space where I'm going to feel safe to explore the truth of who I am. And I know you work deeply with the nervous system, and I think that's a lot, for a lot of people, that's where we kind of need to start, is that feeling safe within feeling safe. Because when we talk about expansion and we talk about growth or thriving or flourishing, any of these big beautiful words, you cannot grow when you're in survival mode. So we first have to have those roots, that foundation of feeling safe. So in order to kind of feel safe, I know you said you've got various different, you're like me, love a toolkit, love toolkit and bringing in a bit of breath work or bringing in somatic practices here. What's involved in helping somebody to feel safe enough to do this work?
Yeah, like what you're already saying about how important the safety piece is. That's why I love to use the term embodied safety, that you feel safe enough within your own being to express who you want to be. And as already mentioned, if we are like in a fight, flight, freeze mode, when we have a dysregulated nervous system, yeah, our body is so busy with keeping us safe. Like there's no chance to even think about expressing your truth if you're already stuck in survival mode. So that's why in my work, like the first step is regulation. I teach tools to regulate the nervous system. I even have a small 5-day freebie, which I'm just in the moment of translating that as well from German into English. So stay tuned. Which is a small, just a small guide for 5 days how to work with the nervous system with baby steps. Because I assume you're a little bit like me. You as well, you love to know a lot and you're a nerd and you dive deep into topics. And I assume a lot of humans watching the summit are the same. But what often happens that we overcomplicate things. And our nervous system loves simplicity. Yeah, like one of my teachers, Dick Schwartz, always says, slow is the new fast. So our nervous system loves it slow and simple and easy and repetition. And honestly, in the beginning, I fucking hated it. I was like, coming from my super spiritual tantric journey, like yeah, right, these somatic tools, they're not going to change anything in my life. Seriously? Just like kindergarten stuff. Well, I had to learn the hard way because when I started my regulation journey, boom, suddenly Pandora's box opened and I had so much releases and I suddenly had like 3 weeks of full-blown depression again. And I was like, okay, can this be healthy? But yes, of course. Suddenly my body was like, oh, great. She's finally safe. She has the capacity to work with her emotions. Party.
There you go.
So yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to admit that as well. I love to overdo things a little bit. Maybe that's just in my nature. So I do take things then very serious. And I mean, this is my work, so it's my life. And I always say I can only go as deep with my clients as I've gone myself. So yeah, if anyone is listening, no worries. You can do it in a titrated mode that the explosion doesn't happen. But yeah, so these little baby exercises really helped me to feel safe within that. Yeah, suddenly the big emotions were able to be processed. And then we don't need substances, because a lot of people these days now go into plant medicine, and I've done it myself and I like it. Yet at the same time, I think sometimes it's a shortcut that people try to take to not actually face the real process of integrating what has happened.
I think what I was as I was listening to you, I think one of the things that came up that is I'm seeing as it's a theme through a lot of the conversations I'm having. So I really want to kind of draw it out is this, as you said, you went full on in there and then had 3 weeks of like, whoa, like, lots of emotions to deal with. And I think the reason that a lot of people don't start this process and shy away from the deeper work is there's a fear around that, right? What if I start to do this and everything unravels, that like, are you going to just fall apart and end up on the floor just sobbing your heart out for days and days and days and days? And I think what's I love that is that you share is that it's the baby steps. It's about, I think, really about starting somewhere and saying, right, clearly this work is required for me to grow and expand into everything that I'm here to be and to live my truth and to live my purpose. But I need to start, and then I need to be consistent with these baby steps and these tools, and just so that it becomes something that we're doing on the day to day. And yes, I mean, even when I'm like you in this, I throw myself in, I'm like head first as soon as I'm like, hey, here we go. And and that's probably, I'm a manifestor in human design, so I tend to be like deep breath cycle, crazy busy doing cycle. And I think when it comes to this process, it's, even if you do what I did and go get crazy for into the process, it's having the awareness around that. Oh, okay, well, I don't have to do it like that. I can take the baby steps as long as I'm doing the deeper work, and I'm always doing it with the right intention. I think is so key as well, because intention is everything when we start this new practice. Like, what is the intention behind this? And I think where a lot of people can get frustrated is that we live in such a culture of, we want everything to be fixed right now, that the work's completely against what your nervous system wants. It wants this nice, slow, steady, gentle pace, and this is where kind of the consistency and the commitment to the process and having a really clear intention about why you're doing it is going to be so vital. So we're going to now I'm going to veer you off over in this direction, because I know that we have talked a lot about parts work, and I know there's going to be people on here who might have heard the term, a phrase, but there's going to be a lot of people. I mean, parts work is fairly new to me. I've only been working with it for maybe 2 or 3 months now. So I feel really honored to be able to have this conversation and to learn more about the process from you. But what exactly is parts work? I think that's probably where we need to start.
Yeah, for sure. So I would say one of the big influences who coined the term parts work is Richard Schwartz. His nickname is Dick Schwartz from the US. He's a therapist, and he founded Internal Family Systems. So that's a specific modality, but of course there is well a lot of other people working with parts work. And he kind of said that we have an inner system of different parts. That is, for example, you've heard about the inner child, the inner critic. Then we have managers, firefighters, trailblazers, and we have a self. And if we would all live in a perfect world and we grew up in a perfect environment and we had exactly the right amount of water, light, and, you know, like a beautiful flower, we would probably be a full blossom of self energy. Like I like to call it as well sometimes to bring it people closer, essence or soul energy. But because life happens and not all circumstances are perfect always, we start to form these parts that try to protect our really vulnerable parts. So if, for example, as a child, you have been shamed for being too loud, that little inner girl is now scared. And she had so much pain that another manager is like, no, 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 Lorraine is never going to feel this pain again. So we will just make her super quiet and that she's always very adaptable and that she doesn't speak her truth. But then maybe at some point you feel like, oh, you always have throat chakra problems because you actually don't speak your truth. I mean, I know this does not apply to you, but you know, I'm just trying to give a life example, or maybe it does, or it was your past version. Maybe it was a past version of you. Yeah. And and then in parts work, we start to work with that manager because at first we might be like, oh yeah, I don't want to have this part that doesn't allow me to speak. And then to reframe it and to meet this part with curiosity. Because at the beginning, if I invite my clients to meet this part with compassion, it doesn't always work because it really causes us harm. We're like, hell no, I'm not going to meet this part with compassion. But okay, I can bring up a little curiosity. I want to meet that part and get to know it better. And then at a little later stage, you suddenly feel, oh, wow, you actually want to protect me. Like, and then this beautiful, loving, compassionate relationship starts to happen. And then at some point when the inner system feels safe enough and trusts you and you have enough self energy present, then it might open up and be like, okay, you're now ready to meet the vulnerable part. And then there's usually a releasing process, and that you then listen to the vulnerable part and that it gets just seen and witnessed. And like, the more I do this work, the more I realize how easy this work actually is, but we make it so complicated. And in the end, it's all just about creating a safe space where all these forgotten parts or suppressed parts can be witnessed. This is all they want. They just want to be seen and heard and potentially held and not pushed away. And then like this frozen energy that has been stuck there can go back into the system. You have more life force. Yeah, and it just becomes more, everything becomes more in flow, you know?
Absolutely. So what I find fascinating about parts work is that I think a lot of people, if you've been kind of playing in the personal development world for a while, you'll recognize your inner critic, you'll recognize your inner child, and those parts you're really familiar with. Those parts, they're the ones that you kind of can signpost really early on. But I think what I found really, really fascinating when I first came to this work was that ultimately, when we're looking to do something like step into our truth and the biggest, boldest, most beautiful expression of ourselves, when we're looking to do that piece, that is where I see it, certainly in my clients, a lot of the sabotaging behaviors. And it's very, very easy to criticize ourselves, be like, why do I keep procrastinating on that? Or why and actually it's that reframe and understanding that the reason you are doing or behaving in a certain way, it comes right back to it's a safety mechanism. And if we can see it from that space of first curiosity, as you said so beautifully there, and that willingness to be curious about, oh, okay, well, that's interesting that I do that. And like, where does that come from? Which part of me is protecting, because I know you're protecting me, right? So in what way are you protecting me here? And then as you become curious and open and willing to explore this inner world, that then kind of this, your heart opens and you can feel compassion for these parts of yourself that you've been like squashing down and not listening to. And I think I'm sure you'll find that you have similar here, is that one of the key things I hear in female clients is they feel unseen and they feel unheard. The reason we don't feel seen and heard is first and foremost because we don't see and hear ourselves. We're not creating that space, are we? So I think it's, you know, it's such a beautiful and as you say, it doesn't need to be a really difficult process. It just starts with that willingness to be open and curious with the process. Okay, so I know that I'm super excited that you have a beautiful practice to share with us today. I'm so ready for this. I'm like, right, ready to mute my microphone so I can join you. So I'm going to, before you go into it, is there anything else you want to share about the meditation you're about to guide us through before we get started?
Yeah, I would say it's just a little exploration of parts. So whoever is watching right now, rest assured, it's just a small introduction and you can go as far as you want to. And yeah, it would be good if you're hearing this while driving to maybe postpone that part and rewatch it later. You can just listen to us. But apart from that, yeah, just get a comfortable spot and some silence that you can like dive in. And yeah, it's a beautiful first exploration if you haven't done parts work before. And if you've done it before, it's always good to go back and, you know, there's always something that some part has to say.
Absolutely. Perfect. Well, I'm going to put my microphone on mute and pass over to you then, lovely.
Great. Thank you. All right, everyone. Then I'll invite you to come into a comfortable seat, or if you want, you can even lie down. And if it feels safe right now to close your eyes, you're welcome to close your eyes or just lower your gaze. And by arriving in the space, just feel your breath, the in and out flow of your breath, without the need to change anything. And we're just going to do a little exploration to see what parts are here today. So while you arrive in your body, by breathing, you might notice certain areas in your body that feel a bit stiff or contracted, or that just feel a bit different. And often these bodily symptoms are hints and signs that parts are present. And at this stage, it doesn't matter. You don't need to know what these parts are called. Allow yourself to just observe, notice, sense, and feel. And allow yourself to slow down, even if it takes a moment to fully arrive in your body. And maybe it's not so much the body, maybe it's actually the mind. Maybe you can notice a lot of thoughts, a lot of chaos in your mind. And maybe there's a part hiding there, the overthinker or the perfectionist. Just become really aware of what's happening inside. without the need to change anything. And if you want, you can get a little bit more intimate with the part that you notice. By just directing your awareness to that part in your body. You can meet it with your breath. Or if you feel called to, you can even lay your hand there. Just a really tender and sweet, hi, I'm there. I see you. And letting that part know that it's not alone. Letting it know that you're here with it. And that you didn't come to change it or to push it away or to suppress it again. That you're just here to show that you care, that you're aware. And while you hear me say this, just notice, sense, and feel if anything shifts in your body. Maybe you can feel more expansion in that part that was constricted and tight at the beginning. And maybe not. That's totally okay as well. Maybe that's a sign that this part wants to be revisited again later or tomorrow. And then allow yourself to move to another part. Another area in your body where you might feel a little bit different, a little bit less expansive. Maybe carry some tension or even pain. And just allow yourself to pause there for a moment. Be present with your loving awareness without the need to change anything. And just observe what happens. Maybe you just want to breathe into it a little bit more. Giving yourself and all the parts the permission to be present. And on some days, just being present with what is. Maybe there are tears, and maybe there's joy. What if we stop judging and just allow whatever wants to arise, to arise. Before we slowly come to the end of this exploration, just let all of your parts know that you're there, that you're willing to visit them again, if that's the truth. And that they can trust you, that you decide that from now on, you want to be more present and actually in your body. And just notice, sense, or feel. How does your body react when it hears me say this? When it hears you say this internally to yourself? You're actually taking the decision today to be more present and in your body. And by keeping this awareness in the body, you can really slowly start to bring a little movement. Maybe you just want to move your fingers, wiggle your toes. Maybe just move your neck a little bit from left to right, right to left. And then slowly open your eyes again. Just give yourself a moment to really land here in the space with us. Thank you so much for participating with us here in this meditation. And thank you so much, Lorraine, for opening this beautiful, expansive container where we can all meet and share our energy.
That was so beautiful. Thank you so, so much. I know that everybody who was watching, who took the time to just be with themselves and to be with those parts, would have experienced something. I mean, I always find it so profound. There's so much just in that, taking that time and that space. So thank you so much for guiding us through that practice. It was truly beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
So before we finish off for today, I would love for you to just, if there's any kind of last messages, last tips, last things you are being called to share with those watching today, I would love to give you the space to do that now.
Yeah, of course, now, even though I guided this meditation, I'm now as well much more embodied than I was at the beginning of our interview, because even though I teach this work and I work with it myself, that does not mean you're 100% embodied all of the time. And whoever tells you this, yeah, nope. We are all still human. I'm still human. But yeah, it just showed me again how potent this work is, how potent it is to really embody your soul and to fully land in this body. And that I believe, and I mean, we all have different paths to wholeness, but that I believe that the path into the body through a regulated nervous system will give you the perfect tools to, yeah, to become whole, to become an expansive woman that really follows her dreams, that is able to attract the right partner, or that is even able to shift her current relationship onto a new level, and that you're able to hold much more abundance when you have a regulated nervous system, when you're actually in your body. So, like, all these gifts that we always thrive for actually become accessible through a regulated nervous system and through embodiment. And yeah, if you feel called to learn more about this, feel free to reach out to me. I do one-on-one sessions, and currently my content on Instagram, yeah, it's in German and English because I work all over the world. But I promise I will as well produce more free content in English. And I know that Lorraine has as well a little goodie in her beautiful package, but she will tell you about that, I'm sure, at some other stage.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that message, because I think it's, it comes back round. I always talk about our outer world is a reflection of our inner world, and that all the things that we're striving for, as you said, beautiful, those beautiful relationships, that abundance, all of these things that we want to be able to hold, it all starts from in here, and from creating that space and that capacity to be able to do that. And I think so what's so often really, really interesting is that as we let go of the kind of, we need to get it out here, and we focus on this inner work, that's that kind of that surrendering to the process, tapping in and using these tools, that a byproduct of that is creating these wonderful experiences in our outer world. So thank you for that reminder. That is beautiful. And so the best place to come and find you then, Constance, is Instagram, isn't it?
Yes, Instagram. That's where I'm most active, and I share a lot of snippets of my just daily life traveling. Since I'm a nomad, I don't have a permanent place. So yeah, if you're into as well traveling and seeing nice places and getting some good insights, you're more than welcome to join me there.
Beautiful, fabulous. And yes, we have a very, very special gift for you. If you haven't already downloaded it, that will be, all the information will have been in the email that you received the links in. So check it out because it is going to be very potent, very powerful, and a truly beautiful experience for you. So that is all for our session today. I just want to say a huge big thank you, Constance, for your time, your energy, your presence, and so much beautiful wisdom that you've shared with us today. So a huge, huge thank you. Thank you to everybody watching, and I look forward to seeing you on the next session. Bye for now.
Thank you.